Today on this Warhammer 40K competitive battle report, we have the new look Tau post data slate changes. Kalyan detachment against the Necron, Star Shatter Arsenal, the army that got buffed, didn't need a buff, but here we are. All right. So if you're wondering how these two armies match up against each other, you're going to want to stick around because we're going to take this 3-hour game. We're going to condense it down to like 25 minutes, give you what worked, what didn't work, what we learned, and simply passing that knowledge on to you because I really do believe if one of us gets better, we all get better. So without further ado, let's get into it. So today we are playing with the new Challenger cards. We have the new data slate, so much new stuff. It's great time to be in Warhammer. We even have new terrain templates. You know, it didn't already notice. 3D6 Wargaming sent these over. Appreciate them. They are amazing. They were big fans of the channel, and they hooked it up. So the Wargaming table looks even nicer than it already did. So seriously appreciate you guys. And yeah, other than that, playing some Tipping Point, Taking Hold. And yeah, we're playing Star Shatter today. Okay, we're not playing Awakened. And one thing to note, we got a little proxy over here because as of right now, your boy does not own 12 race, but he does have 6. All right, so we got our 6 over here, and we got our 6 over here. If you want to check out the list, of course, those are going to be in the comments down below in a pinned comment if you want to check that out while you're following along. And then let's get into this game. So first thing I'd like to talk about beforehand is just mindset going into it. All right. So Kalyan, if you didn't already know, they get sustained once they're in battle round 3. So it does benefit you a little bit depending on, trying to get as much stuff off the table or playing maybe a little bit more aggressively before they activate their ability. One really nice change with the new Tau detachment is that stealth suits they can just spot and then everything can see, which I think is a super awesome change for Tau. And I believe it gives them ignore mods and something else. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's kind of like a side grade in that regard. But I think overall thematically it makes a lot more sense because it's like, yeah, you got like one guy, he can see him and he's spotting for all the other stuff that can see. It makes it way less complicated. And I feel like with Tau, it's, they already got enough stuff to worry about with all their different weapon profiles that they're shooting. And I feel like that is just a great change for Tau overall. So super positive there. And overall with Tau, the one thing, so looking at his list, he has a lot of shooting. Okay. So I'm playing Star Shatter. We're both just going to just shoot the crap out of each other in this matchup. And as far as weaknesses go, potentially I think Star Shatter shoots a little bit harder than Kalyan, but how can I exploit potentially his lack of melee threats in his list? And so the race are going to try to expose that a little bit, and you're going to see how this game plays out. So more or less with this list, I mean, you're essentially trying to have a decent amount of pressure with the 2 Wraith bricks. So they're going to be moving up on our objectives turn 1 that you're going to see here shortly. And essentially with Star Shatter, you're trying to put some durable things on objectives to start to get the game going so you can get really high value out of your DDAs and your Silent King and give them something to shoot at in round 2. Because the problem with Star Shatter is if you don't put things on objectives that are durable and force your opponent to respond, it's really hard to give your DDA something to shoot at. And if they're not shooting at anything till like round 3 or round 4, it's usually not very good value. So you gotta, especially if you're going first, you have to figure out ways to create a response from your opponent. All right. So flipping over to the game here, we are going to get first turn, and Challenger cards are in play. Now I'm gonna say this was the first game that I really felt some issues with Challenger cards, and I'm going to go over them as we go through the game here. And if you watch my video from earlier this week of how I think it fundamentally changes how you play 40K, this is one of the games that I think inspired that video. So we're going to get first turn to preface because the new missions aren't quite out yet, at least on the app. We are subbing in Containment for the new Display of Might, and then we are subbing out Cull the Horde for Tempting Target, okay? And then if I need to make adjustments to points, I put it in the Raise Banner section of the point thing, okay? So Necrons get first turn. We're playing Take and Hold, and we get Mark for Death and Engage on all fronts. So kind of rough. This is exactly something I talked about in the video. We're now with Engage. You know, this used to be like an auto cycle, but now you're just going to score a point. So I elect a Gamma target, which I know I can't kill, which is these Crude here with potentially Indirect, and that's going to be my turn. So we're going to fast forward here. We're going to stage up like we're talking about, and you're going to see that unfold here. So we essentially shift the Silent King over so he can pick up some of these Crute that are over here. It's a good profile into him, even though you're hitting on 4s, you're reeling 1s to hit and wound. So we honestly almost picked up most of the squad just with his Indirect. So one really nice benefit with the King. And then we are staging up our race right here. So we're intentionally putting 2 on the objective to force a response here. And we move up our race onto this objective right here. Okay, and then we're hiding all of our synergistic pieces like our Technomancers. Is very important in Star Shatter because you do not have the luxury to bring back these characters like you do in Awakened. So it is critical that you do a very good job of hiding these Technomancers. Otherwise, you're gonna have a bad time fast. All right. So more or less staging up, we get a 1 on Engage on all fronts, and then discard Mark for Death at the end for a CP, and we pass it over to the Tau. Now, Tau are gonna stage up. They are. Let's see here. We're gonna move up here. Tau are gonna get recover assets and bring it down. So we're not really exposing any vehicles this turn, which is good news for us. And I'm just making sure we don't move it there. So, so all in all, solid turn. So he's going to recover assets with one of these Ghost Keel in the back, and then like this Hammerhead or one of these units back here, and he's just going to score it because recover completes at the end of the turn now, which is great. He's going to move 2 Crute up on this objective. That's why I wanted to get rid of them, because they're an easy denial piece, but I couldn't get rid of, unfortunately, the rest of them, so he survives. And he does a really good job of bringing out, we'll highlight this here, bringing out the Riptide. So he has 1 Riptide, 2 Riptides, and potentially 2 Ghost Keels that have line of sight on the race here. Now, the one really nice thing about Star Shatter is you have the react move. So a lot of times when your opponent, they activate a unit into the race, they're going to be able to kill a couple race, and then you can do your react move behind a wall. All right. So there are pros and cons if you're running Crypto Thralls in the race, which I was doing, because sometimes you can have, depending on what you need to do, you can have the Crypto Thralls behind, like next to the Technomancer, but also there's some interesting maneuvers with having the Crypto Thralls actually out here, where you have essentially, you have your Wraith here, and then you have like a Crypto Thrall and a Crypto Thrall, right? Or something like that, where you complete the bow tie. So it makes it easier to get rid of those units. So a lot of times, instead of, like, you almost guarantee just in one activation, they're able to just kill the 2 Crypto Thralls and a Wraith, and then it pulls you out of line of sight, like guaranteed. So there's some interesting mechanics there that you can do. Now, one thing I will say, actually, I'll talk about it after the game, actually, with Star Shatter. But he goes here, and you can see he just rips up the race, right? So I more or less, this is a practice game. We're testing. Is this something that I would maybe normally do against like a very good shooting army? Probably not. But also, it's a practice game. Like, you want to see kind of the relative output of things and seeing what these race can handle. And I think he killed like both Crypto Thralls and 4 or 5 Wraiths. So I was down to like, I think I was down to like 1 Wraith and the Technomancer. 1 Wraith, a Crypto Thrall, and the Technomancer. So not necessarily the best play going into turn 1, but again, we're play testing and seeing what things can handle, right? So going into turn 2, he's kind of left me an interesting choice here. We are going to get a 10 on primary because we're going to hold this objective and this objective. And we're going to get Bring It Down and Cull the Horde. But remember, Cull the Horde is a tempting target. All right. So this is the first thing that I want to talk about. So I have another DDA in reserve. So you're going to see that here, that we ingress in a DDA 9 inches away from this Ghost Kill. Now, this is going to get me a couple things. The reason why we did this is because, one, he did not put a Ghost Kill on the objective because he didn't want me to get +1 to hit. So he just has the stealth suits on there. And then we are going to move up the Tomb Blades. I think the Tomb Blades are an interesting pick in Star Shatter just because there are a lot of different maneuvers you can do with that unit. If you think about it, you can essentially guarantee a 24-inch move. That's 6 OC, very powerful, that can move through walls and everything else. There's a lot of interesting primary denial shenanigans you can do, and they're even spicier, I think, on an ingress play, where you could rapid ingress them in and potentially, on your next turn, just, yeet them at your opponent's home expansion if they don't have, like, any Overwatch threats, and you're just, like, stealing their home and they don't even expect it, which is kind of cool. So there's some plays there, but again, play testing, seeing how it works. So we do get Bring It Down and Tempting Target. So we are essentially going to try to, what's nice with Bring It Down now is you just have to kill a vehicle. So these piranhas in the early game are actually pretty nice for me because it just gives me 4 points for killing a piranha, which is pretty cool. So the Wraiths are going to move up. They're going to do Flyover Mortals to the piranha. I'll almost kill it. So we're going to get 4 points there. And then we are going to move up this DDA, which you're going to see here. And with the pivot and moving, it's able to draw a line of sight to the stealth suits to try to get rid of that resource, get rid of one of his spotting units, and then we're also going to deny this primary with a tempting target. So essentially, we got 5 points for tempting target, and we're denying his primary, and we're going to get Bring It Down, which was like a super, super strong turn. So going into, and then we try to push out the Mineers here. And then let's see, we had the Mineers pushed out here because they're going to essentially fire at the, let's see, what were they firing at? I think they were firing at, I know the Ghost Keels are lone op, so maybe that was 12 inches. It doesn't look like 12 inches, but I think they're going there. And this DDA is, we were firing at, the right there. And then this is going to fire over this way at the stealth suits that were behind this wall here. Okay, so that's essentially the turn. So we got rid of these stealth suits here. We almost got rid of these stealth suits here. So we're getting rid of a lot of his spotting units, which was good. And then we're keeping him at bay at primary with using the Tomb Blades as a primary denial piece going into round 2. All right. So going into his turn, he's going to get a 5 on primary. He's going to get Storm, Hostile, and Overwhelming Force, which was a great pull for him this turn. And he is going to get a Challenger card, which... forgive me, I don't remember the exact Challenger card that he pulled, but he pulled a Challenger card. Now, I will say one really positive thing about Challenger cards, if you didn't realize this, is a good habit to always get into in tournament games is checking in with your opponent after each battle round and being like, hey, what do you have as a score? What do I have as a score? Make sure there's not any discrepancies, and you move on. Challenger cards, I think, are a great positive for the game in that because it forces you to do like that good behavior, more or less. So it prevents any sort of discrepancy when you get to turn 5 and you never checked in with your opponent and you're like, no, I swear you didn't get cleansed on turn 2 for 2 units. And you're like, well, no, I totally did. And that kind of creates this like awkward situation sometimes. But I think that is one really nice thing with Challenger cards is it forces you to check in every battle round as far as victory points, which I think is super cool. So going into the turn, he's going to very easily get Storm and Overwhelming Force because all he needs to do is just storm this objective, and then he can just kill the Tomb Blades and the DDA, and he's got 9 points right there, and he gets his primary back. So we're going to see this turn unfold. He's going to push more resources up. He's going to move this Piranha up to, I think, move block or try to get primary there because he might have wanted to move this Riptide up to potentially deny. And then the Tomb Blades are just sitting there, not doing much of not doing much of anything. So we're gonna fast forward the turn here. Again, this is bottom of turn 2, and you're gonna see this play out now. One thing that was pretty crazy, this is why DDAs are so good in this game, he fired this boy, this boy, this boy, this boy, this boy, this boy, and I think he almost needed to fire this Riptide, but all of these units combined, it took to kill that DDA. Now, I did roll above average, I will say. I know Joel's probably going to watch this. It was above average, okay? It wasn't like 90%. It was probably like 75, okay? But the DDA did die, all right? So he got his points. And this is essentially what the board state looks like going into bottom of turn 2. So he's got some good board presence. It's going into turn 3. I really need to make sure we get a few more assets off the table before his detachment rule activates. And he still has these stealth suits in play, unfortunately. So now at this point, I think it's kind of our go turn with Star Shatter. Star Shatter usually, I feel like, depending on what your opponent gives you, really does want to push in turn 3. But again, it is board state dependent. So he did put me in a very interesting situation, because a lot of times what you can do is you can really push these race up with the react move, or you're looking for like moving them up, charging, and then on the pile and consolidate, you could potentially get on their home objective. But Joel did a really good job not only kind of creating this weird move block here, but the Rays don't have enough output to kill this Riptide. Unfortunately, by going for the ingress play with the DDA over here, it didn't allow me to put enough damage down this flank, and I think that was a slight deployment error on my part. I think in hindsight, I probably should have put the king over here and then one DDA over here, just to have both of these firing lanes covered, and then giving me the option where I need to put. But hey, well, I think this is like my first rep with Star Shatter in like months, so no complaints. So he kind of neutralized this side, which was interesting, but I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna take my primary and see what happens here. So we're more or less going to be shifting the king. It's time to go. He's got -1 damage, and we are going to put him kind of in a threat overload situation. So you're going to see us drop. The Racer slowly healing back. The Race flew over the Ghost Keel for Flyover Mortals. It's something that's super strong, and Star Shatter rolling 9 dice and getting, I mean, you're basically getting 2 free grenades every turn. It's better than a grenade, honestly. So on average, with the pistols, usually Race are doing like 6, 7 mortal wounds to a unit. Super strong. And the plan was basically the king to come in, clean up this, firing at Disco Keel, and I thought I could maybe get both of these units off the table. We needed to make sure we got this broadside unit off the table, because it was the heavy damage dealer, and then hopefully get rid of this resource and this resource and this one. So you're going to see that play out here, and we do have Storm Hostile Objective and Defend Stronghold for the turn. So unfortunately, that did not pan out. We killed the stealth suits. We killed that, but we left this freaking Ghost Keel. I think it was at like 2 wounds, unfortunately. So it wasn't quite enough to kill it. And we still have this primary locked down right here. So no complaints. And going into turn 3, he's going to get a 5 on primary. He's going to get, I believe, another challenger card. And he gets behind enemy lines and engage on all fronts. Now, I kind of lucked out because he drew the challenger card where I believe he needed to be in my enemy deployment zone, which he couldn't score. And the strat that he got off the challenger card wasn't ideal either, so it was kind of a dud. So I kind of lucked out there. And he couldn't score behind enemy lines, but he did get engaged in all fronts. So he is going to get in 4 quarters by moving essentially this Riptide up, as you're going to see here. Fast forward. Maybe... did he not move it up? Let's see. Maybe. Yeah, I don't think, maybe he did not move it up. Maybe I misscored that back then. I'm not sure. But going into, or actually, hold on. Let's see here. Actually, 1 second. So King charges. Might be behind on here. There we go. Okay. So going into his turn, bottom of turn 3, he's going to engage on all fronts for 4. So now he's essentially going to try to go after the king. He's more or less going to ignore the race because we kind of have this neutralized over here. And then you're going to see him, same thing, kind of fire all of these assets here at the king and see how much damage we can do to him, and doing a good job just kind of letting the race score points, and then just neutralizing them. We're slowly healing up the race over here as well. So fast forward going into my turn, he does not kill the king. So he's still alive, hanging around. We're going to get another 10 on primary. This is top of 4. We're going to get no priz and containment. Containment is display of might. So as long as I have more units in no man's land than my opponent, then I'm going to get it. So so we're going to have basically the race, the barge, and the reanimator are going to need to move up, and the king, and I think that was enough to actually take it. So you're going to see this turn play out. The king ends up charging, finally killing this ghost kill right here. That was the only thing, unfortunately, we killed for the turn. I didn't want to push out the race quite yet because I needed them for the late game to try to keep him off primary. And so you're going to see the board state here that we end up giving him another 5 on primary again by using the king as a denial piece. And then we still have this objective here. So he's only going to hold this objective. He's going to get Mark for Death and Cleanse. He cycles Mark for Death and gets Defend Stronghold. So Defend Stronghold is going to be automatic, and he's going to get Cleanse for 4 just by moving this unit up on the objective and then moving this unit up on the objective because they don't auto-see me. And this objective here. So he's going to double cleanse. He is going to get rid of the Silent King this turn. So good news there from the Ghost Kill, Riptide, and this vehicle. So solid turn for him, keeping it a relatively close game. And then on my final turn, we are going to get still a 10 on primary, and then looking to do our final push of area denial and recover assets. So as I was talking about with the race that are super, or the Ophidians that are super clutch, so you can see them dropping over here. We're going to recover, and then recover. So an easy 6 points with this unit. There's a lot of times this unit can score you. I mean, if you draw this turn 4 or 5, you're just getting an auto 6 points with that unit. It's super strong among other secondaries. So I think right now in Necron lists, I mean, they're an auto include. I mean, I think they're just super strong with the new mission set personally. So they have felt great. And then we're pushing out basically this full unit of race again that got basically neutralized the first turn. And you can see here we're basically just trying to do our final push. And this is pretty much the game. The race failed to charge here. We conclude that he is able to get a 15 on primary at the end because he's going to hold these 3 objectives. We couldn't quite get enough on the points. And he's going to get Containment, which is Display of Might, and Secure No Man's Land. So he's going to get more units in the midfield for 4 points, and then he's going to get Secure No Man's Land for 5. And we end up barely pulling this one out, 81 to 77. And that is with also Joel getting 12 points from challenger cards throughout this game, which, you know, it's something that we got to pay attention to. So I think overall this was a solid game. I think the biggest lessons for me, and I think for both of us, is that you do have to pay attention to the score more. I think playing a little bit slower in the early game and really not forcing your opponent to 5s on primary is not necessarily a bad thing because you're basically just letting them draw free challenger cards. And I think if you can limit your opponent to drawing challengers in at least turns 3, 4, and 5, I think that's a much better game plan, I think, in general. And then also you don't really have to stick your neck out early with units that maybe you don't want to die or putting them in compromising firing lanes to deny primary. So there is that aspect of it. But yeah, the challenger cards going first, it's a very, very interesting because you really have to pay attention, especially in that first turn, of whether you know, if you get Secure No Man's Land and area denial, and you know, or secure and extend battle lines, you know, do you want to get that 9 or 10 points the first turn? Because what ends up happening is if you do that, the person going second, they have full agency to go down intentionally by 6 points just to get their free challenger card. And a lot of times in the early game, you don't really want to overextend yourself anyway to lose units. I mean, of course, it's important for board control, etc. But it's a very interesting mechanic that I would say it's not something that's bad for the game. I think we just have to play the game differently. And by playing the game differently, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just different. So I will leave it at that for right now. I think it does need more testing just to see. But overall, I think it is a very good mechanic. I would like it tweaked potentially a little bit where it's something that, you can only do twice per game or once per game, or you make the delta of victory points like a little bit higher, because 6, it just feels a little too low. But that's just my personal opinion. But other than that, solid freaking game. And if y'all stuck around this long, seriously, appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.